Like and subscribe right now, or you're going to have bad luck for the rest of the week. Most of you probably believe that the dinosaurs were the scariest creatures to have ever lived on Earth, which isn't that far off, but some animals lived before the dinosaurs and were just as scary. Today, we are looking at 10 of them. Can you guess what our number 1 is? Number 10. Gorgonopsia. Our first entry on the list today is the Gorgonopsia, which, when looked at, looks very similar to the more well-known Saber-Tooth Tiger. The thing that stands out that has the most similarity to a Saber-Tooth Tiger is the teeth. Gorgonopsia's teeth are very long canine teeth and can be found in both the upper and lower jaw of the animal. These jaws and teeth allow them to stab and tear large prey, making them dangerous to animals larger than themselves too. What made them even more terrifying is that they had an agile and light skeleton, meaning that this animal may have been very active. Compared to their body, their legs were quite long, which suggests that the Gorgonopsia was capable of running and sprinting. We don't know about you, but if we saw an animal larger than any of us, with the teeth of a saber-toothed tiger sprinting at us, we would just faint right then and there. Number 9. Nothosaurus. This one was treated unfairly with its name, and nobody can tell us otherwise. Nothosaurus roughly translates to false lizard, which isn't very nice if you ask us. How would you feel if your name translated to false human? Exactly. Well, back to telling you a little something about this animal. The Nothosaurus was a semi-oceanic animal, whose lifestyle was very similar to that of today's seals. It is assumed that it hunted smaller aquatic animals by digging into the soft seabed with its paddles, and then snapping up any animals that were hidden under the sand. Once caught, only a few animals would be able to shake themselves free from the mouth of the Nothosaurus. While this animal may look scary, it wouldn't have been much of a threat to us if we lived back then, because their snout and jaw were specifically built to hunt and eat fish. But it is also speculated that Nothosaurus was a distant ancestor to the giant plesiosaurs, which were quite a lot bigger and much more dangerous. Number 8. Scutosaurus. While this animal may look a bit chunky and cute when looked at from afar, the closer you get, the more terrifying it looks. Its name translates to shield lizard, which refers to the large plates of armor that were scattered across its body. They also were the largest lizards in the Permian, which was a period that was 299 million years ago and spanned over the time of 47 million years. They measured about 2.5 to 3 meters in length and 1.5 meters in height. Fortunately for other animals in the era, the Scutosaurus was herbivorous. They would often travel very far to find fresh foliage to eat, and it is assumed that they either traveled alone or in very small herds, so they wouldn't strip the whole area of their edible plants. The Scutosaurus were hugely successful reptiles, and yet they were unable to make it through the Permian extinction. The immense heat and lack of food drove these giants to extinction 248 million years ago. Number 7. Kalopterus. Some of you definitely will not like what we're about to show you next, but just stick with us, okay? Our next entry on this list is the Kalopterus, which is quite a hard name to pronounce. This animal is the largest known arthropod to ever have existed, which is quite an achievement for any creature to have. This was determined based on a claw that they found in Germany that measured 36.4 centimeters, but was missing a quarter of its length, suggesting that the full claw would have been 45.5 centimeters long. If this length matches those of other related species, the creature that possessed this claw would have measured between 233 and 259 centimeters. You realize what this means, right? This arthropod is bigger than the average human, and probably bigger than all of you watching. This would have been a terrifying thing to encounter while diving, but thankfully none of us will ever come across it. Number 6. Pneumodesmus Numani. We wonder what the people naming these animals are thinking while they're naming them. Do they just pull letters out of a hat and just keep going until it sounds alright? Anyway, the Pneumodesmus Numani is not something for people to look at that have a fear of insects or creepy crawlies in general. Even we had a rather hard time looking up these animals, and if we're unlucky, this critter will visit us in our dreams. Let's just hope it doesn't though. The Pneumodesmus was originally interpreted to have lived some 428 million years ago, but more research suggests that 414 million years ago was a more accurate guess. It was one one of the first myriapods, which are a subspecies of arthropods, like the centipede, and was also one of the oldest creatures to have lived on land. The fossil that was found broke the age record of fossils found, and even more uniquely, it was found by a bus driver. Mike Newman from Aberdeen, Scotland stated that he basically stood on it, and as soon as he realized how important it was, he turned the fossil over to the National Museums of Scotland, where they deduced its unique status. Number 5. Dimetrodon Angelensis. While the animal's whole name may be Dimetrodon Angelensis, for this segment we will simply call it Dimetrodon, which should be much easier to comprehend in the long run. The Dimetrodon lived around 295 to 272 million years ago, and their most prominent feature is their large neural spine sail on their back, which is formed by elongated spines extending from their vertebrae. This sail may have been used to stabilize its spine, or to heat or cool its body as a form of thermoregulation. The Dimetrodon was an apex predator that hunted fish, reptiles, and amphibians, and also had sharp teeth that were able to tear flesh. While this animal may look like a dinosaur, and is often mistaken for one too, the Dimetrodon actually became extinct 40 million years before the first appearance of dinosaurs. Number 4. Titanic Thieves. Before we get into this, let us just mention that this creature has nothing to do with the Titanic. Just to put that out there before we start creating any conspiracy theories. The Titanic Thieves was a giant prehistoric fish that lived in the shallow seas of Morocco, eastern North America, and possibly Europe. It is assumed that this animal was a filter feeder like our modern whales, where they inhale small fish like anchovies or plankton, and then allow the water to escape while their food stays where it is. This would make it the first known large filter feeder. Many of the species rival the Gorgonopsia in size, which was a large armored fish that could grow up to 8.79 meters long and could weigh 4 tons. Fortunately, if we would have existed back then, the Titanic Thieves would not have been a danger to us, as their teeth lacked a sharp cutting edge. Weirdly enough, it is actually unknown why this prehistoric fish went extinct 360 million years ago. Do you have any idea why this may have happened? Let us know down below. Number 3. Educasis. The Educasis competes with our number 4, as this creature was also a giant filter feeder, but this one lived before the Titanic Thieves. The animal was named Educasis bin Mulai, after the person that discovered it, who was named Mohammed bin Mula. He discovered it in southeastern Morocco, where it was ranked among the biggest arthropods to have ever lived. At the time of its existence, Educasis was possibly the largest animal in the world, and its length was described as exceeding 2 meters, but we don't have any more specific measurement. Unlike other fossils of its species, the fossil for Educasis was preserved with 3-dimensional detail, whereas other fossils are usually flattened. Fun fact, the name Educasis means Edger's helmet, which refers to the giant Edger from Norse mythology who lived in the sea. Edger refers to the large size and underwater properties, and the helmet part is a reference to the structure of its head plate. Number 2. Arthropleura. The Arthropleura is a now extinct millipede-like arthropod that lived around 345 to 289 million years ago. This species is the largest known invertebrates of all time, and would have had very few, if any, predators. The largest animals could grow up to 2.5 meters in length. The Arthropleura could grow that big because there was more oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere, and because there was a lack of large predators that would have eaten it. For a very long time, it was assumed that the Arthropleura was an active predator, but it is now known that it actually wasn't, but was an herbivorous arthropod that munched on leaves. But even though they ate plants, if a human ever came across them, it still would have been a huge shock. The Arthropleura became extinct when the moist climate began drying out, reducing the rainforests and giving way to all of the deserts of the Permian period. Number 1. Helicoprion. This animal is probably the most bizarre creature on our list, and you'll soon see why. When you hear the name Helicoprion, probably the first word association you make is the word helicopter, but that is quite far off. The Helicoprion was a shark-like animal that lived all over the globe. Almost all fossil specimens found from this species are spirally arranged clusters of these species' teeth, which were called tooth whorls, and were embedded in their lower jaw. Not much is known about how they looked like, because as soon as their body disintegrated, their skeleton would too, unless their body was preserved by exceptional circumstances, like in an area with minimal bacteria. However, the general body shape can be estimated by taking remains from a few similar species theories and some precise guesswork. Almost all Helicoprion species are known for their unusual teeth, which are assumed to be an adaptation for feeding on soft-bodied prey, and may have been used to crack shells. Well, there you have it. What did you think of this video? Let us know by leaving a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll be notified when we upload. See you in the next video!